everyone! It's us, Jordan and Alex with Dinosaur Punch Media, and this is the first of a double upload that we're doing today. Both videos in the double upload are focused on the same subject. The new Death Note movie. And Alex getting the shot. This is the spoiler version of the video. So, if you haven't seen the movie, I don't know what the hell you're doing here. Leave this video and either go watch the movie, then watch this video, or go watch the spoiler-free version of this video, which will be in our suggested videos right above where this one is. Also, while I'm at it, so I don't have to say it at the end, be sure to subscribe, because we do make a lot of videos. This is our first film review ever, but we do other stuff. A lot of stuff. So, synopsis. Death Note is a film that just came out today, August 25th, 2017, straight to Netflix. It was funded by Netflix, created by Netflix. It's rated R, or by Netflix standard, TV mature. It's directed by Adam Wingard, as I'm pretty sure how you pronounce his last name. And it's an hour and 40 minutes long, so big 100 minutes. Personally, I feel like the movie could have been way longer to discuss more points of a plot, but somehow it still worked. So, without any further explanation, let's get right into this review of Death Note. The first section of this review of Death Note is the difference between the anime and the movie. There's quite a few of them. And because I spent the entire introduction talking, Alex is going to discuss them.
So, the first main difference I saw between the movie and the anime was where it took place. In the original anime, it took place in Tokyo, Japan, while in the movie, it took place in Seattle, Washington, which is cool, which is awesome, because we live there.
Which is cool and which is awesome?
Yep. It's cool and awesome.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool for us that the movie's set in Seattle, because we live a 30-minute freeway drive from Seattle, which means we're literally just right around the corner from most of the major filming locations of this movie that weren't filmed behind a green screen then added with CGI. Anyway, some other differences between the anime and the movie. Obviously, Light Yagami becomes Light Turner. They all become American. And L is black, which, not in a racist way, was a strange selection, but it worked. Yeah. It really, really did work. Watari stayed Asian, which was great.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure he was the only Asian actor in this entire movie that had a major role.
Watari was American in the anime.
At least they made someone Japanese.
They kind of whitewashed that whole...
Yeah, the whole movie is pretty much whitewashed. Instead of just filming it in Japan, they decided, let's hire a bunch of American actors and one black dude and see what we can do with this.
And then let's Asianize the character that's not supposed to be Asian.
Yeah. Those are the main differences between the anime and the movie. Another huge difference between the anime and the movie. Misa is Mia, and her and Light are in love.
Yeah.
When in the anime, Misa has her own Death Note, her own Shinigami, and Light can't fucking stand her at all. Also, I'm pretty sure, this is my main criticism, in an hour and 40 minutes, I'm pretty sure Ryuk only had maybe 10 minutes of screen time.
His screen time was a good screen time.
It was good screen time. But out of an hour and 40 minutes, one of the most important characters in the entire anime gets 10 minutes of fucking screen time. Are you serious?
It was kind of annoying.
It was really annoying. Willem Dafoe, on the other hand, was born to be the voice behind Ryuk.
He killed him.
He took the role, made it his own, made it his bitch, whipped it with a studded belt, and said, "This is me. If I was the Green Goblin and Spider-Man and kicked ass, I can be a Shinigami death god." Ryuk was by far, even though he had a very small amount of screen time, the best character in this movie. And he just looks so grotesque and terrifying. The special effects for Ryuk were out fucking standing. Just mind-blowing.
Something small I noticed on the same topic was when Light was paging through a book about the Shinigami, the Shinigami artwork looked exactly like Ryuk looked in the anime.
Which was a nice little nod to
Yeah.
the source content. I noticed that too. That's a scene in the movie, though, that we'll get to in the next section of this video, which is going to start shortly. Can you think of any other big differences between the anime and the motion picture? Because I'm drawing blanks too. I'm pretty sure we discussed all of it.
Well, the main ones at least.
I don't know. I remembered another one. Light's mother's dead in
Oh,
this
yeah.
movie. Light's mother died before this movie even takes place, which is not the case at all in the anime. In the anime, Light's mother is not a very primary character, but more a very secondary character. Also, his sister doesn't even appear in this
Yeah.
movie. Light doesn't have a sister in this movie. He's an only child. His mother's dead, and his father's at least still the chief of police.
Yeah.
Or
I
a
was
detective,
worried
or
about
whatever the
that.
fuck he's supposed to be in this movie.
He's on the police force.
He's in the police force. That's what matters. One thing that I do like between the movie and the anime, though, is L comes from Japan to
Yeah.
Seattle to investigate it. So at least Japan has its own little place in this movie in some way. Like, when L flew into Washington from Japan, it was kind of just blissful to know that they actually brought something from the source content into this movie other than boy named Light finds a note, kills over 400 criminals, then goes into crisis mode.
And it was nice that they had some of the crimes take place in Japan, too.
I'm pretty sure only one of the crimes took place in Japan.
Well,
We'll talk about that in the next section because we've discussed all the big differences between the anime and the movie, which means we're moving on to the next section right now. Second point of this review, major plot points in the movie. This is where we're gonna spoil everything from now on until the end of the video. So if you for some reason stayed during the introduction and you haven't seen the movie, unless you don't care to, I'm gonna warn you one last time, leave now. Go watch the movie or the spoiler-free version of this video. Major plot points. The movie starts at a high school in Seattle with Light sitting in the schoolyard watching cheerleaders perform, doing very advanced math equations. Now,
it was logarithms.
it was what?
Logarithms.
Logarithms. Anyways, amidst a storm, without any former indication of the huge scene in the anime where Ryuk is with the other Shinigami and he accidentally drops his Death Note. The Death Note falls from the sky in this storm and lands right next to Light. Light picks it up and starts to head inside with everyone else because it's suddenly dumping rain. And for some reason that's terrifying when it's normal for Seattle weather. Either way, he sees this bully character fucking with some kid, and this cheerleader girl pushes him and tries to stand up for him, and the bully, I can't remember if he punched her in the face or shoved her. He shoved her. And Light freaks out on him, gets knocked out unconscious, and the next scene we see is him in the principal's office holding an ice pack to his face, getting detention because apparently the work that he was doing at the beginning of the movie was the homework of 15 other students.
He did get paid for a piece at the beginning, too.
Either way, cut to Light in detention, short confrontation between him and the person instructing the detention, And the teacher leaves the room, and everything goes dark, and Ryuk appears.
Yeah.
Light starts freaking out, and once he calms down, Ryuk tells him to look out the window. When he looks out the window, the bully is, with his friends, harassing the same cheerleader that tried to stand up for the kid that was getting beaten up in the beginning of the movie. Ryuk describes the Death Note to Light. Light writes the kid's name in the Death Note, and next to his name writes decapitation. About a minute and a half worth of slow motion footage later, two cars collide. One is a truck with a ladder on top of it. The ladder goes flying at 150 million miles an hour off the truck and completely chops off the top of the bully's head. Light freaks out, realizes that this is for real and that he's not dreaming. Cut to Light killing a bunch of criminals with the Death Note. There's this one dude that's holding his family hostage and he gets hit by a truck or whatever, and that's where the whole Kira thing starts.
Yeah.
Now, there's a scene in the high school where, for some reason, long story short, Light tells Mia about the Death Note and shows her what it does. And they start working together. There's this huge 95% of the plot that's centered around Light and Mia being Kira, instead of the scenes that should be there with Light and Ryuk.
Yeah.
Everything in the anime, basically, that happened with Light and Ryuk is instead happening with Light and Mia. And Ryuk gets, like I said before, 10 minutes of screen time in this entire movie.
Rip Ryuk.
That's the thing that frustrated me the most about this movie, is instead of everything going on with Light and Ryuk like it should, for some reason, Mia has to be a part of this plot besides the female role.
Like, she didn't have her own Death Note or in her own Shinigami at all.
Nope, she just worked as Kira with Light, which is not even close to anywhere true to the anime, and that pissed me off, but I ignored it and still enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
Cut to Kira killing in Japan. Kills a huge nightclub thing that we assume is full of criminals in Tokyo. That's where L comes into the story with Watari and deduces that the Kira killings are coming from Seattle, not Japan. And he goes with Watari to Seattle, to start investigating with the police force. Eventually, after about 10 minutes of this going on, plus little side plot with conflicts between Light and Ryuk or whatever, 12 investigators come in from the FBI and start following Light. And as a result, Ryuk kills them all. Every single one of them. Causing them to not be the good guys anymore, which only escalates the situation. There's a huge press conference where, in disguise, L comes in and addresses the public, threatens Kira, and all of this happens. Now, a whole bunch of stuff happens after this, but in order to stop this video from being over an hour long, I'm going to cut to the chase to a point where, when he wants to get L's identity, Light writes Watari's name in the Death Note and controls his mind for 48 hours. And Light's plan is to mind control, which works, Watari into going to find the file with L's true identity in it. And then after he does that, he's going to tear the page out of the Death Note and burn it. So Watari is spared. Now, all of this happens. There's a huge, dance sequence and everything. L freaks out because Watari's gone, and he threatens Light's life. Light's dad threatens to kill L and, choke slams him against a table, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And then, as L is slowly going insane with Watari gone, Light and Mia go to this school dance, and during this school dance, Light gets a call from Watari, who has the file with L's name in it. So Light opens the Death Note to burn the page with Watari's name in it, and it's gone. And Watari dies before he can say L's real name. So rest in peace, Watari. Light goes back to the dance, and Mia reveals that she tore the page out and wrote Light's name in the Death Note because she wants to take it from him. A whole bunch of this stuff happens. L finds out that Watari's dead, goes completely insane, gets a gun, and starts chasing Light all over Seattle. Light and Mia meet with the Death Note in the Ferris wheel in Seattle and trap themselves up there with it. Mia threatens Light's life again for the Death Note, and when she takes the Death Note from him, Light reveals that he wrote Mia's name in the Death Note, so she would die instantly if she took the Death Note from him.
And that's after she took the Death Note.
Yeah. And, then all this stuff happens, the Ferris wheel starts to collapse.
Because of Ryuk.
Yeah, because of Ryuk. Ryuk is collapsing the Ferris wheel as it appears. And then Light and Mia fall out of the Ferris wheel to their presumed deaths. Mia dies upon impact, and Light lands in the water and starts to drown. Cut to finding out that L is kicked off of every investigating force on the planet, and his life is ruined because he was stupid.
And tried to kill people.
Yeah, and tried to kill a bunch of people.
Including officers.
And including police officers. And it's revealed that Light's been in a coma for 2 days. He wakes up with the Death Note at his bedside. He hides it under his pillow, and his dad shows up, revealing that Light... He knew that Light was Kira the whole time, basically. And Light starts to describe and unfold how he planned everything that happened. Writing Mia's name in, a bunch of people that worked to save him and bring him back the Death Note, killing themselves afterwards. He mind-controlled the doctor that treated him into putting him in a 2-day medically induced coma. All of this happens, and during this time, L, who finds out that Mia was the one that killed Watari, breaks into her bedroom and finds the missing page of the Death Note, takes a pen and goes to write Light's name in it. But just as he does, he stops, and Ryuk appears
laughing maniacally.
with Light, laughing maniacally, and Light looks at Ryuk and says, "What?" And Ryuk says, "Humans are so interesting," or whatever, and he said something along those lines, and then it cuts to black and the movie's over. Now, one last thing that I forgot to mention in the Ferris wheel scene is it's revealed that Mia was the one that killed all the police officers, not Ryuk.
That's what I was nudging you about.
And anyways, that's just the major plot points of the movie. That's what happens. That's a huge 5-minute synopsis of the movie.
It was great, though.
Next, third section, the best scenes from the movie, in our opinion.
One of my favorite ones was Ryuk coming out of the shadows, and you get to see what the CGI and costume team made, and it was
the first official reveal of Ryuk's entire face was by far one of the best parts of the movie. And why are you stealing my water?
Because I love you.
Because when Ryuk is revealed, there's so much suspense surrounding it, and he just looks so terrifying.
It's badass.
Yeah, the special effects team used all of their budget to make Ryuk look badass.
And then on the Ferris wheel.
Yeah, and then on the Ferris wheel scene.
In the Ferris wheel scene was one of my favorites. That was amazing.
Now, another good scene in the movie that I really liked was the first confrontation ever between Light and L in the coffee shop.
Ella jumping into the chair scared me.
It's because you weren't expecting it. I was like, I've seen the trailer for this movie. Ella's gonna jump up on the chair and make a really loud noise. Elle was a psychopath in this movie, though. He wasn't an intelligent, super criminal chaser. He was just a straight-up obsessed with Watari, and once Watari left, he became a total psychopath.
Well, in Elle's defense, Watari was the only, like, person he could get close to since he was 6.
Anyways, what are other good scenes from the movie? Ooh, when Light's father addresses Kira.
Yeah.
And there's that father and son
bonding
moment. Yeah, right after when James is the dad's name in this movie.
Yeah.
Gets home, and there's this, like, emotional embrace between him and Light just says, "I'm proud of you," and then goes back upstairs.
Oh, another really good scene is when Watari was under the mind control and went to that abandoned, like, boarding school looking place.
Mm-hmm.
Pulls up the hatch and there's this, like, dungeony file room.
Yeah, that was really cool. I knew something bad was gonna happen when Ryuk was watching him through the windows,
Yeah,
though.
like,
I was like,
no.
don't do it, Ryuk.
He did it.
But really, Mia did it. Jesus Christ.
Mia's more of a psychopath than Elle.
And that's really saying something about this movie, because Elle was portrayed not only perfectly, but as a lot more of an obsessive psychopath than he was in the actual anime.
This is gonna sound weird since how dark Death Note, the anime, is. The Netflix movie was even darker.
And that's what was great about it. It was the Dark Knight of Death Note. Like, as dark as you could possibly get it, but then darker.
It's like, let's just make the watcher think that this person died, right? Nope, let's show their head get cut off. Not just write it down so they got decapitated, right? Nope, you get to see their head.
It's completely gruesome, and it's not even close to better than the anime, but it's an amazing movie.
For all the backlash that it got,
It's getting backlash from otakus. That's why it's getting backlash. Otakus that can't understand the fact that this movie would have been terrible as a word-for-word adaptation of Death Note.
There's already a Japanese one of those.
Yeah, there's already a Japanese one. To all the otakus that are making this movie seem to be just absolutely horrible because it strays away from the subject content, but still made a great movie out of it. In 2006, 2009, and 2012, 3 Death Note movies came out in Japan that tell the exact same story as the anime does. It's like watching the anime from start to finish, but with live action characters. If you wanted that so bad, go to fucking a website or go to Amazon, buy those movies, and then go masturbate to them.
Oh my god.
This movie was great, and the otakus that think they're so full of themselves and the weeaboos need to shut the fuck up and realize that this is art. Next section. Worst scenes in the movie. The ones that we disliked strongly. Thanks for drinking half of my water bottle. Dick.
I love you.
You start.
I'm not sure. I think one of my least favorite scenes was just the cheerleaders. It was honestly just really pointless.
The opening scene made no sense. It could have just been... The movie should have started with Light in the high school doing work, then cut to Ryuk accidentally dropping the Death Note.
Yeah.
This movie would have been way better, in the beginning at least, if it would have shown the iconic scene from the anime with Ryuk and all of the other Shinigami in their little realm, and Ryuk accidentally dropping his Death Note. Because that's what starts this whole series.
Didn't Ryuk purposely throw it because he was bored?
Yeah, that's what he reveals, but he accidentally dropped it for the other Shinigami. He just got bored up there and decided to come to Earth.
I mean, there's nothing to do.
It does showcase this movie really well, though, Ryuk's addiction to apples. Fuck. Okay. Other scenes that we disliked.
A scene that I disliked was when Elle, like, there wasn't really any context for Elle freaking out on the plane and saying, "Don't take off."
No, there really wasn't. Don't stop, don't take this plane off. Dude, just sit on the plane. You got fired from everything you ever worked for because you went insane. Go back to Japan and be insane.
There's a nice mental hospital waiting for you.
Another scene that I thought was absolutely fucking mediocre was basically everything that had to do with the romance between Light and Mia.
Yeah.
That was like 25 minutes of the movie that could have been dedicated to actually showcasing Ryuk for more than 10 minutes.
Yeah. Because there was, like, scenes where everyone had their top off and, like, there's no point in this. You could have just shown them kissing and it would have made the same point.
Something that I forgot in best scenes. When Elle is addressing the community and threatening Kira directly, Light is sitting alone in his bedroom watching it, and Ryuk appears behind him and says, "Okay, cool, now I'm rooting for this guy." And Light turns around and says, "Would you shut the fuck up?"
Oh my god, I love it.
I think I laughed my ass off for a good 2 minutes at that scene.
That was an amazing scene.
I can't think of any other scenes in this movie that were pointless or just genuinely bad, except for those few.
It was overall a really good movie. Like, it didn't have a crap ton of those just pointless scenes.
Yeah. The only part of this movie that was pretty much pointless was focusing on a romance between Light and Mia instead of the conflict between not only Light and his own personality, but also Light and Ryuk, who is the literal second main character of this story, who only got 10 minutes of screen time.
It kind of did show the level of betrayal.
Ryuk in Death Note was the Venom of Spider-Man 3.
Yes.
Everybody goes to see the movie to see Ryuk, and then he gets 10 minutes of screen time throughout an hour and 40 minutes. It's fucking ridiculous. Next. There's a big question to answer here. Who was the real villain in this movie? Also, I apologize if you guys can hear psychotic screaming coming from downstairs. My mom's an NFL fan, and she somehow seems to think that if she screams at the top of her lungs at the screen, the NFL players will somehow hear her and better themselves. Either way, that little tangent off.
I'm pretty sure everyone does that.
Who was the real villain in this movie?
I personally vote for Misa, because she just stabbed everyone, including Ryuk, in the back.
There's 3 different possible villains to this movie. Elle, Ryuk, and Mia. Mia showcases herself the most as a villain character near the end of the movie, but there's also very maniacal, psychotic shit done by not only Elle, but Ryuk. So I don't know whether to consider that as there's 3 villains in this movie, or a struggle to find out who the actual main antagonist of this movie was.
But Ryuk didn't really do anything.
It points to a tie between Mia and Elle, but Ryuk did fuck some shit up. And
by existing.
backstab Light a couple of times. But that's just kind of what Ryuk does.
Yeah. It says in the opening, like, sequence, don't trust Ryuk on in the rules.
Yeah, in the rules of the Death Note, it says don't trust Ryuk. But, I mean, that doesn't point to him being the necessary villain. I personally think there's 2 villains in this movie. Mia and Elle.
Oh, that reminds me of a scene, where Elle goes to threaten, or Light goes to threaten Ryuk, and he says, "Keep acting like that, and I'll write your name in the Death Note." And Ryuk said, "There's 4 letters in my name."
The most anyone's ever gotten was 2. R-Y. Willem Dafoe as Ryuk in this movie is just overall badass, but honestly, the conclusion that I've come to talking about this in the video rather than just outside of it is the real villains of this movie the answer is there's 2. The villains are Elle and Mia. Mia is the main antagonist and the side antagonist is Elle near the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Elle's character is lovable, but the way that he just slowly turns into a psychotic secondary villain for the movie is just fucking beautiful.
It is.
With that said and done, next segment. The ending of the movie. We discussed it in the major plot points, but what does it mean?
It messed
There's
me up.
3 different theories that we read about this. The first theory is
It's a
when
sequel
Ryuk
for
appears, it's because he's killed L. He's written L's name in the Death Note already because with his Shinigami eyes, he saw it. He knows L's real name already.
He did it with those special eyes of his.
The second theory is that Ryuk is there to kill Light. And the third theory, that is actually backed mostly by Netflix, is it's a cliffhanger for Death Note 2, also directed by Adam Wingard. Because Adam Wingard said, when I approached Netflix about this, I had an idea for 2, possibly even 3 movies. But what Adam said was, sequels aren't guaranteed. They have to be earned. Yeah. So if this gets enough viewing and popularity on Netflix, there's no denying that there's going to be a Death Note 2. And what Netflix Adam filmed it as was a cliffhanger. But there's also going to be speculation, just in case the sequel never happens, that Ryuk is either already written L's name in the Death Note and Light is safe to continue being Kira, now with the help of his father who knows he's Kira, or Ryuk is there to kill Light. The ultimate betrayal. The ending of this movie overall is confusing and shocking, and it's just fucking brilliant.
There's a part that made me really think on that, was Ryuk said, when a person dies, their last few moments, a death god is present.
The death god is present in their last moments of life. Which has led to the theories that Ryuk is there to kill Light. I personally don't think that. I think it's just a cliffhanger. If you guys have watched the movie and are watching this because you've watched the movie, you can speculate your own things. We have to move on to the last 2 or 3 subjects of this now that we've talked about the ending. Do we like this movie? The answer to that question is a hard, solid as fucking concrete yes, we do. We love this movie.
It is so good.
We thought that it was absolutely amazing. All the differences between the movie and the anime aside, all the shitty love story things put aside, this movie is perfection. It's completely unflawed. There's things that we don't like about it, but that comes with literally every movie on the planet. This movie, alongside from the things that we discussed, was absolute perfection, and it always will be. Will there be a sequel, and do we want one? I've already discussed this. Yes, I would love to see a sequel to this movie that continues the storyline however Adam Wingard envisions it. Will there be a sequel? As I said, that all depends on viewings. Sequels aren't guaranteed. They are earned by viewings of the audience. Which means if this movie blows up like it rightfully should, I'd say give it a couple years and there'll be Death Note 2 on Netflix, and it'll be just as good as the first, if Adam Wingard is still directing.
I didn't really know about Adam Wingard before, but he has become one of my favorite directors because of how well he did this.
He took Death Note, said, I'm going to stray away from the anime and make my own thing, but I'm still going to reference my source material.
Yeah.
And it turned out great. Absolutely wonderfully. Do I recommend this movie, and does Alex recommend this movie? Yes. 100% yes. Doesn't matter how skeptical you are, go fucking watch Death Note on Netflix. It is a great movie. Regardless of its flaws and its criticism before it was released, it is an amazing movie.
Seriously, at least give it a chance.
Mm-hmm. Final point. Our final ratings of this film, personally, on a 1 to 10 scale. Alex.
I give it a big ol' 8.
You give it an 8 out of 10?
Yeah.
I'm stuck between a 7.7 out of 10 and a 9 out of 10.
I give it an 8 because I'm in the middle.
You like being in the middle. Mm-hmm. So she gives it an 8 out of 10. I give it between a score between 7.7 out of 10 and 9 out of 10, which is very, very good. That on Rotten Tomatoes would be considered fresh
Okay.
in and of itself.
I'm changing my answer. I am at an 8.5 because it is such a good.
The point is, we can't decide a personal rating of this movie because of how good it is. Now, with all those points discussed, that brings an end to our spoiler-filled review of the 2017 Death Note movie. If for some reason you never saw the movie, but you watched this anyway, and for some reason, now that even though the entire plot is spoiled to you, you want to still go watch it, go do that. And if you haven't seen it and don't want to, congrats, you watched this and now you know the whole movie. And you can talk about it yourself. But if, still, point stands, we've talked about everything. There's a spoiler-free version of this that can be found on our channel right above this video in our recently posted content. We've been Jordan and Alex from Dinosaur Punch Media, and we'll see all of you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye!